Hello everyone, I'm Lat the Redeemed, bringing you another Infinite Magicraid video. Today I want to bring you an update on my free-to-play team and progress, as well as highlighting an interesting team composition and what goes into it. If you remember from our last update, we'd gotten stuck in hard mode. To push through, we farmed the Emblem Challenge dungeon, and that was able to get us just enough power to grind through. My main team is focused on Valentine as our main. I picked him up during the last Wish event as one of two legends, and his AE damage, self-cleanse, and self-heal put him at the top of our tier list for heroes that we do have. Our other legend on the team is Space, who is providing speed and heals for the group, and from there I've got both Malasa and Wolsey, who I believed would synergize nicely on the poison front. Malasa applies poison, while Wolsey applies deep poisoning, which adds 25% to each stack, and Wolsey's ultimate blows up existing poison stacks and debuffs enemy attack. We used Christian as our fifth to take advantage of his DPS and shield, and continued our push. I ran into problems trying to finish off the hard chapters though. While Valentine continued to pump out strong damage at his Awaken 2 level, Malasa at Awaken 1 wasn't carrying her weight. My hoped for advantages through synergizing with Wolsey's deep poisoning just weren't materializing consistently. I think the problem was that Wolsey works best when poison is more consistently applied across more enemy heroes, which allows his ultimate, Toxic Bottle, to trigger on multiple enemies and do much more burst damage. I was just about to regress Malasa, which would have been a shame because I've got multiple copies of her and was looking forward to unlocking her exclusive skills. All that changed when I pulled some wish shards during the latest round. I didn't land any legends or any of the new heroes, but I did pull a Maphka. Maphka is an epic Green Mark Forester hero, and not one that I was familiar with. Let's take a look at her kit. On her basic attack, A1, she's doing a fairly standard 160 attack damage to a single enemy. But she also has a 40% chance of landing a layer of poison for 2 turns, which can be booked up to a 60% chance. On her active skill, the A2, Maphka adds Poison Rain, which is 140% attack damage to all enemies, with a 30% chance of inflicting a layer of poison on a 4-turn cooldown. That can be booked up to a 60% chance and a 3-turn cooldown. Now I'm starting to get really interested. With just Malasa, Wolsey's ultimate wasn't triggering enough explosions. But with Maphka, I should be able to get a much wider spread and much better leverage of Wolsey's ultimate. For her ultimate, Maphka adds Poison Healing, which I absolutely love as a skill name. It restores 8% health to all allies and cleanses all attribute debuffs, which can be a huge benefit in both waves and boss rounds. For her passive skill, Maphka reduces the turn meter by 8% whenever she successfully inflicts poison. Now, maybe I think it is time to revisit whether I should abandon the Malasa-Wolsey combo and see how it performs if I add Maphka to the list. I'll have to use some precious resources to take Maphka from a 4-star to a 5, but I think the gamble is worth it. The team now consists of Valentine for AE DPS, Christian for his shield and AE DPS, and Malasa, Wolsey, and Maphka for burst damage, cleanses, and heals. I debated for a while using Space rather than Christian, but ultimately felt like the DPS would be more helpful with Christian than the additional heals of Space. I may revisit that once the team runs into trouble, though. Another advantage of having both Maphka and Malasa on the same team is that they are both Forester heroes, meaning they each get an additional 6% attack and defense, a really nice additional bonus. Even though I had progressed to Nightmare difficulty, my hard mode stars were only at 327 out of 360. I decided to take my newly reconstituted team back through to see if I could pick up all those missing stars. Something that I noticed fairly early on was that Maphka wants to use her ultimate on the first turn of the first round. It is rare that any of the other heroes need healing or cleansing at this point, so this seems like a waste. I adjust the AI settings to open with Poison Rain and not use Poison Healing until after. I'm still debating whether to ban Poison Healing outright, but I'm just going to monitor it for now. The team makes it through the first 6 chapters of hard mode without a lot of drama, though I do still see a little less damage output than I'd like from Team Poison. That may be partly because Valentine is such a beast. The heals are keeping everyone alive, and it is pushing 3 stars on levels where I previously struggled, so I think this team is largely succeeding so far. Now, Valentine is fully booked, but I haven't put many books into the epic heroes. I'm starting to think, though, which of these epics that I may want to book. I'm thinking Melassa, as I've also got multiple copies of her, and I can use those to quickly get her exclusive level up. I'm not sure on Woolsey and Maphka yet, though. They are both still 5-star, not awakened, so I don't want to commit skill books until I'm certain I'll be awakening them. How they do today overall will be a part of that decision. In Nightmare, this team will struggle with underpowered heroes, so I may have to decide whether to commit awakening resources to any of the 5-star epics. One thing that I can see is that Maphka is getting resisted quite a lot on her AE poison. I chose speed and healing gear for her to take advantage of her heals and cleanses, but now it's clear that I'm going to need to find some more effect hit. I'm not sure that I've got a lot of appropriate gear banked, and I don't think I want to replace the sets she's using, so I make a mental note that I'll probably have some farming to do once I do get stuck. I run into the first problems on the boss of hard mode stage 10-5. This boss is a bit of a pain in that he provokes, reduces speed, and increases his own defense. So I swap in space for Christian to see if that makes any difference. I'm thinking her speed and heals may be better than the shields from Christian. This time, we made it through cleanly, though hard to say whether the change made the difference, or we just had a more favorable set of random number generator rolls. I'm going to keep space in for now, though. I do realize when I swapped Christian out, I needed to reset the AI, as Maphka was opening with her AE heal again. I'm going to do essentially the same thing with space, and her AE heal, she shouldn't be opening wave 1 with that. That seems to solve the problem that caused us to 2-star hard 10-9, and we move forward again. 15 stars left as we move to the Doom Volcano of Chapter 11. I had a lot of trouble with this one on the first run through, only achieving 2 stars on 7 of the stages. The wave mobs use stuns and Immortal Buffs a lot. I'm not sure this team will carve through them any faster than the team without Maphka did. 11-5 gave me turn count headaches, but I was confident that I could manual my way through it, which I did. I realized it was just one enemy hero, Focus, who was causing me all this grief. His A2 gives all allies immortal. To counter, I just focus fire him now when I see him. Valentine is able to one-shot him usually. A couple of failed attempts to 3-star on 11-10, and I decide to move on and just come back later with a bit stronger group. I'll give a couple of tries on Chapter 12, but if I don't immediately 3-star, I'm also going to move on. As I suspected from Chapter 11, it is probably doable to 3-star, but it's going to cost more stamina than it is worth. I'm just going to revisit it later. The good news is, by swapping Maphka into the group, I was able to go from 327 stars to 351 stars in hard mode. Not bad for a single hero swap. The team cleared through all of Nightmare Chapter 1 with 3 stars, which surprised me a little given the challenges in hard with the same team. It might be fun to deep dive that sometime, as the power scaling across chapters doesn't seem to be linear in the way I would expect it to. By Chapter 2, Stage 5, we're starting to run into DPS concerns. We've got enough healing to power through, but we missed on the turn counter and ended up with 2 stars. We cleared through all of Chapter 2 without much difficulty. The last challenge to face to unlock the next chapter is clearing floor 12 and any Tower of Mark. We'll start with green, as we've already completed floor 11. If we can't beat 12 directly, we're likely going to be at the point where we have to figure out our next power-up move. A 3-star start to the 11th floor is a promising beginning, though. The 12th floor ends up falling without any trouble, though the shields are a bit of a pain for the team as it is a DPS fight. Future floors may become a bit of a problem. Tower of Mark becomes a significant barrier in future chapters unless you've got a lot of power in one particular mark. For us, that looks like it's going to have to be green, so as we continue to awaken and gear out our heroes, we'll need to take care to ensure we keep up the power of green mark, or we're likely to get stuck. So what is my verdict on the poison team now? Remember, I started the video thinking I may need to regress Malasa and go down a different track. However, the addition of Maphka made a substantial improvement in power for the team, and I find myself being able to succeed on content that I couldn't previously, just by swapping in one 5-star epic and swapping out one 5-star legend. I'm going to call it a big success, and one I'll be investing in until proven that it can go no further. If I find more poison heroes for my roster, I may find additional utility for the stacking dot. Until then, I'm quite comfortable calling Maphka a very underrated hero and worth your consideration if you have the right heroes to complement her abilities. I'm Lat the Redeemed, and thanks for watching.